Okay. Now we will start reading Bhagavad Gita. This Bhagavad Gita, Gita means song, Bhagavad means of God, the song of God. The song of Krishna. So Krishna spoke this on a battlefield about around 5,000 years ago to Arjuna, and from that point it was passed on by great souls who understood and had this fully absorbed into their consciousness. So it was passed down until the point where it was set down in writing. And since then, it's been conveyed in writing. First it was just in Sanskrit, and then later it was translation commentary was given in some of the Indian languages, and ultimately translation was made into English. And the first translation was given by my guru, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and it was given in the West at least. But the original translation that we have in our line in India was done by Srila Sridhar Maharaj, who's the second guru there. It was done by Srila Sridhar Maharaj in the 1940s, setting down the Bhagavad Gita with commentary and understanding. So contained within the translation in this particular edition given by Srila Sridhar Maharaj is the translation conveys a more developed understanding rather than just a direct word for word. It conveys an understanding of the substance of the meaning of the Bhagavad Gita. And of course, when you translate from one language to another, it becomes a little difficult. So particularly from Sanskrit and then into Indian languages and then into English, it becomes even more difficult. But the fortunate thing with our reception of the Bhagavad Gita is that it's been being given by our gurus, so the transmission is more than just a written transmission. It's more than just something that they've set down and we're reading. Rather, it's something that they've conveyed with their hearts. And with our hearts, we're trying to receive this. And so based on that, the understanding of the Bhagavad Gita manifests as Krishna advises in the Bhagavad Gita, that it should be understood, received from a soul who understands the Bhagavad Gita and conveyed from his heart to your heart. So in this kind of spirit and understanding, we study Bhagavad Gita and we try to understand, based on that, this transcendental knowledge that Krishna is passing down. And of course, the basic understandings of the Vedic Indian teachings are conveyed in Bhagavad Gita, from reincarnation, how from one birth to another, the soul passes based on its activities in a particular life, and the understanding of the conveyance of transcendental knowledge. From time to time, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I come to convey this knowledge and reassert this knowledge in the material world. So, the reception of Bhagavad Gita comes from Krishna, but in this particular case, Krishna actually, from the spiritual realm, descended into this world and conveyed this knowledge on the battlefield in India 5,000 years ago. So it's a setting where Arjuna, who's Krishna's disciple, is on a battlefield. He's about to fight, but arrayed before him is another army, which is composed of some of his relatives and so many people. So he's wondering, how can I possibly kill these people? How can I possibly do this? And Krishna, replies in so many different ways in Bhagavad Gita, explaining to him that, what's transpired in terms of the functions of the material world, the reactions of the material world, it's already set up. Krishna's already set it up. All you can do is try to act in your particular position according to the will of Krishna, and things will happen. It's not as though you're going to do it. It's already done. Krishna says that to Arjuna in the Gita. So, a basic understanding is that most of our life is controlled by our previous karma, our previous activities. But nonetheless, Krishna brings out, more or less at the end of every chapter, that we have that margin of individuality, that margin of self-determination, self-choices, where we can begin to act in such a way as to free ourselves from the material world. So the whole Bhagavad Gita is set up in that way for that purpose. So where are we? Does anybody know?
Bookmark on 11, chapter
11?
No, we're in chapter 12.
Chapter 12, 13?
Oh, actually, we already read chapter 12.
Okay, so 13, huh?
Yeah, chapter
Okay, so this is... Oh, I have to get my glasses. What page is it? 254?
234.
234. Okay. So what we generally do is, because the sound of Sanskrit given by Krishna has its own particular effect, so we chant together the Sanskrit before we read the English and discuss the explanation or whatever's there. So we can all kind of try to read together the Sanskrit verses and just do the best you can, try to follow it. Try and hear it. Try to say it if you can, and then after we say the Sanskrit, we'll read the particular verses and discuss as is like necessary. Okay. Prakritim purusham chaiva kshetram kshetragyam eva cha etad veditum ichami jnanam geyam cha keshava Sri Bhagavan uvacha idam shariram konteya Kshetra-midya bhiyate etadyo veti tang prahu kshetragya iti tadvidha kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshekseshu bharata kshetragyayor jnanam yatta jnanam matram mama. Arjuna said, O Keshava, I would like to know about the material nature, the person, the field, the knower of the field, knowledge, and the object of knowledge. The Supreme Lord said, O Arjuna, this body is known as the field. One who knows this field is described by the learned as the knower of the field. O Bharata, you should also know me as the knower of all fields. This knowledge of the field and of the knower of the field is true knowledge, in my opinion. So, the question is there, what is this material world? Who are we as persons? What is the field through which we're perceiving things in this world? And who is that that's perceiving? Who is the knower that's perceiving? And what is knowledge? How are we? What are we understanding? And as we understand, how does it bring out who we are? Or bring out who we are, and also an understanding of why we, naturally seek after knowledge. Everybody is, in one way or other, it's implanted in us to seek after some understanding. Just by nature. That's like the nature of the soul, and also because we find ourselves in an unreal circumstance, an unreal situation, where we're suffering in so many ways at different turns. We don't want that. Every one of us wants a situation where we're happy, where we're enjoying, but it's always interrupted in the material world, and everybody knows this is not quite right. It doesn't seem right. And that's the first step to begin to understand about spiritual knowledge. That, oh, wait a minute, something's off. This is not how it should be. That's like a natural feeling that comes when we're confronted with, the sufferings of this material world. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, birth, disease, old age, and death. We're confronted with these things, and it just doesn't jive with who we want to be, who we feel we should be. And there's a point to that, and the point to that is to bring us to the state of saying, why? Wait a minute. And when we begin to think, why, and wait a minute, then naturally, because Krishna is God is in control. As we want to know these things, we're guided to an understanding, about these things, about understanding who we are, why we're in this world. All these different things will come about based on our own inner desire to know. Krishna is everywhere. He can help us, and He will help us. So that's why it's so important in terms of like studying spiritual understanding and trying to understand ourselves, is to remember that this is all dependent on knowledge that is being given to us from above. You can't figure out Bhagavad Gita with your own limited perception and intelligence. It's not like a process where you figure it out. It's called aroha in the Vedas, a process of going up, figuring it out, what's going on. But rather it's a process of parampara, sampradaya, coming down from above. The knowledge will be given to us in our heart as we seek after it, and as we come in contact with those who have, and like it says in Bhagavad Gita elsewhere, those who have seen the truth, we can know the truth from them. So, let's see.
4 is on the next couple pages.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Okay, so Sanskrit for number 4. Yat kshetram yat cha yat drikcha yat vikari yatascha yat satcha yo yat prabhavascha tat samasena me srinu rishibir buhudurgatam chandovir vivinaya brahma sutra padaschaiva hetumadbir vinishchita mahabhutanya ankaro buddhiravyaktam evacha indriyani saikam cha panchachendriya gochara vichadvesha sukham dukam sanghataschittanadriti etat kshetram samasena savikaram dahritam. Okay. 4.
Now, hear from me briefly what this field is, its constitution, transformations, causes and effects, and who the knower of the field is, and of his potency. This has been taught in many ways by various sages. The different Vedas and the aphorisms of the Brahma Sutra, with its conclusive logic. The 5 primary elements of either air, fire, water, and earth, ego, intelligence, and the unmanifest material nature, the 10 senses, the mind, and the 5 objects of the senses, likes, dislikes, happiness, unhappiness, the aggregate, consciousness, and determination. All these are summarily known as the field and its transformations.
Okay. So the Vedas and the aphorisms of the Brahma Sutras have described the nature of the material world, what the material world is made up of, and how the living beings, the souls, have become implanted within the material energy, the material nature. And here it's described: earth, ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Then ego. We all are implanted within an ego based on our karma. In our understanding, we have an ego, which is the real self, and a false ego, which is the false self. The self, I am this body, I'm of this world. And the real ego is, I'm a spirit, I'm a soul who's connected with Krishna. And then, based on the development of understanding that comes from the soul, there's intelligence. And we know everybody's got different types of intelligence, different degrees of intelligence, both material and spiritual. Spiritual intelligence perceives things in terms of the inner spiritual self and the interconnectedness of all things in the universe, and ultimately all of our position in relation to Krishna. Material intelligence is based on an understanding of the workings of the material world, and the consciousness basically that has to do with how to exploit the workings of the material world for my own selfish purposes. That's like material intelligence. Spiritual intelligence is a whole different thing. So we can see basically the world is running on material intelligence, but there's also a stream of spiritual understanding that's there, everywhere. Everywhere in this planet, everywhere in the universe, there's a spiritual stream that is accessible. It's just accessible in different degrees in different places, and we all we've all taken birth in a certain circumstance based on our previous material karma and also our spiritual development. We're in a position where we brought ourselves into a position where we have access to spiritual understanding. And spiritual understanding comes in different degrees and different stages, just like ordinary education is in different degrees. It's developed through different stages. There's beginning understanding, there's early understanding, medium understanding, later understanding, and advanced understanding, postgraduate understanding, and all these things grow and develop within our heart. And within our lives, within each life we appear in, within each circumstance we're in, by nature we seek out the position in terms of spiritual development that we left off in our previous life. So we're all searching, and we will, based on Krishna's kindness and our connection with the Supreme, we have a chance to find these things out in this life. Krishna will show it to us, and we'll have an option. Yes. No thanks. Krishna will show it to us, and we'll have an option, an opportunity. And the degree to which we take to that will set up our position in the future. So, in this lifetime, I may make a certain amount of spiritual progress, but I'll also be attached in different ways to material things. So in the next life, I'll be put into positions where the results of my material desires will come into play, but also my spiritual progress will never be lost. Whereas, you can become a millionaire, have big houses and everything under the sun in this life, but you have to leave it all. But with spiritual development, you don't leave it. It goes on with you. It continues with you. So it's the one thing that we can accumulate in this life that, we won't have to leave behind. Our spiritual growth will always be with us. So whatever however we endeavor in this life, we'll be able to take off in the future life from where we left off. And each one of us is different. We don't know we don't have the vision. Maybe the great pure souls have that vision to see where people are at spiritually in terms of their own individual progress. But most of us can't really perceive that. And because of that, we're told, when someone who's brand new, has never been to the temple, they walk in and we see them, we actually offer our, respects, because we don't know where that person has come from. We don't know that person's spiritual development. We can't see. We have to honor. That's why in spiritual life, our idea is to honor everyone, because everyone is a soul. Everyone is progressing in a spiritual way, and to see people in that way is to see people, without any kind of exploitative motive. You're just trying to see people who they really are. And that's wow, if we can actually, at least we can aspire for that. And if we can just a little bit understand what that means and what that would feel like to come to a stage where you're really with people, person to person, soul to soul, desiring the same thing in spiritual progress, and wanting to help other people in the same way. And joining together with people like that, that's wow, it's an ideal possibility for our lives. Yeah. Oh, the Brahma Sutra.
Give me my...
Well, there's a series of teachings that have come from the original person in this universe, whose name is Brahma, and the Brahma Sutras. Sutra means like literally it's thread, but it's like a teaching that comes to us that weaves together a spiritual understanding. And we have a particular the book that we read from Brahma that's called Brahma Samhita, that's been given to us by our gurus. And he particularly, in Brahma Samhita, he says, Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami, which means I worship Govinda, the Supreme Lord, who is the origin of all life and all beings. And then we even sing, Govindam. Oh, I can't sing. Who could sing? Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. When I first joined Krishna Consciousness in 1969, that was like number one in England, because George Harrison, did it with the devotees in England, and they had a big hit on Apple. So when I first joined, we distributed the record and stuff. So Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Just a beautiful prayer that and there's a whole series of wonderful prayers that have been given to us that we sing that glorify Krishna and also Krishna's servants. So it's just like such a natural, fulfilling thing to use our position, who we are, to give honor and respect to the source of our existence and to those who are giving us some kind of entry into understanding that source. So
does Brahma mean the highest of the caste system?
Brahma is there's multiple universes, and in each universe there's a Brahma. It's like a position, and he's like the controller of a particular universe. But Brahman is the understanding of the Supreme Spirit, and Brahman is a person whose life is devoted to understanding the Supreme Spirit. That's why they're called Brahmins, because it's connected with Brahman, which means the spirit. And then in India, traditional society, Brahmins are the ones who are involved in spiritual life and spiritual teachings and stuff like that. And then those who are involved in administration and fighting and defending are called Kshatriyas. And the ones who engage in business and farming are called Vaishyas. And the ones who are engaged just in ordinary labor are called Shudras. So that's like the four caste divisions that you find in India, which is kind of distorted now, because it's come to be like some kind of a measurement of social status. Whereas previously it was just a particular engagement that everyone engaged in according to their nature in service to Krishna. So it says in our scriptures, a sincere, Shudra, sweeper in the street, is better than someone who calls himself a Brahmin but is a cheater. So the real, it's like if you look around in any society in the world, there is a division. There are people who are like intellectuals and more interested in spiritual type stuff. There's people who are administrators or fighters or whatever. There's people who are businessmen and farmers and stuff. It's in like a natural division of humanity, but it's not meant for sectioning off people. In this fallen age, Kali Yuga, it's become fixed like that to some extent in India. Though by the effect of my original guru, Prabhupada, and others, India is changing from what it was. When I first went there in the early 70s, India is completely different now. It's way more spiritual. At that time, India was mostly more interested in Nehruvian socialism and stuff like that. Many people in India that was like the trend for the future, but it's been turned around. So India is a whole different, amazing place. And of course, the different holy places in India that we go to, they've always been really, really special. And even now, any of us can go there and get an experience, because the atmosphere is in these holy places is completely different. Somehow or other, people become different. Like just south of Delhi, about 90 miles or something, there's Vrindavan, which is the place where Krishna came when he descended to this world. And it's a whole temple town. There's hundreds of temples. Everywhere you go around the corner, there's another temple. And people are all, most people are dressed like this in robes and things like that. And, it's like, for us, it's like coming home. When I first went to India, it was like, wow, there's a place in this world like this? It was just really like, whew, what a relief. It's not all just material mess, So, there's an influence of materialism in India, no doubt also, but there's a much more powerful, stream of spiritual consciousness. I always say that, like in India, like if you fly into India and you get into a cab, you'll immediately can engage in a heavy spiritual discussion with the cab driver. He's like fully into it. And, it's just a very different place. When I first arrived in India, maybe the second or third time, I forget, but we were driving from the airport to the temple. This was in Bombay. And so we're driving through this kind of it looks like a slum. It looks, I'm thinking, oh man, this is really bad. But I look over, and this lady walks out of this hovel, and she's absolutely beautiful. She's got the deepest smile on her face that I've ever seen. And I'm like, what? There's a whole different standard of life that's going on there. They're not so focused on material circumstance. If that can mean anything, it's like the people who are in a less materialistic developed position are in many cases more happy than the people that have the material stuff, because it's like the standard is within. It's not without. It's just a different, totally different place. Everybody should go to India sometime and go to the holy places and, just get a feel for the possibility of that kind of life. It's mind-blowing. So we're just we're little, outposts of India or something.
Is there a temple from this lineage in India? Is there a temple from this lineage in India?
Yeah. I mean, we have a temple in Vrindavan. We have one in the holy place in Bengal, Navadvip. There's other temples in different places in India, and the big society of Krishna Consciousness that Prabhupada founded is we're kind of like a smaller cousin branch. But I was involved directly in Prabhupada's society. He has 120 centers in India. So everywhere you go, there's temples. And pretty much when you go to a temple, you can just stay there. You may sleep on the floor in your sleeping bag or something, but you can stay and get full meals and everything, and someone will take you around, show you the holy places and stuff like that. So it's really it's a place where anybody can go and get a feel for India, and that's why people are there. In India, you'll find mostly the devotees are naturally Indians, but there's people from the West too that I have friends who went to India when Srila Prabhupada first sent some people to India in the early 70s, and they still live there. They've been there the whole time, and they're Indian citizens, and they speak the Indian language, and they just become the experience of India and Indian culture and all these things is something that is accessible to everyone, and maybe even more so if we go there from the West and we're really seeking for spiritual things. It may be more accessible for us than it is for people who are caught up in materialism in India. It's just it's an atmosphere that is conducive to spiritual development. And it's less so conducive to material development, but it's there, And I remember coming back to when I first went to India, everything is bright and whoa, everything's just amazing like that. And then you come back to America, and it's like, India, you go on the street, and there's like 1,000 people walking by and doing things, and you come back, and there's like nobody on the streets. What is this?
Why did you come back?
Why did I come back? Well,
Not to derail, but
yeah, no, it's okay. Well, because when I first went to India, I was part of Prabhupada's mission. So I was a temple president, mostly in Chicago in the beginning. And so as part of my service, I would go to India, both to get, as they said, get my batteries recharged, but, also to, see the holy places and to bring people that I had talked to about Krishna Consciousness to India to see the thing, and then come back and continue our, like our missionary work. We're like missionaries in the West from India, something like that. So, I would always go to India. Sometimes I'd stay for as much as 6 months, depending on what I had to do back in America. After I was kind of free from my responsibilities in that society, I was able to stay longer in India and, get, I must say, deeper experiences. Because the longer you stay, the more you try to focus on, the energy in the temples and kind of bring yourself into that consciousness. Naturally, the more it affects you. So later in India, I was much more effective than I was at first. But at first, I was, it kind of depends. Somehow or other, I was open and receptive to India. It didn't freak me out. There was poverty and people like that. Some people go and they're like, it's too much. There's people are, because, we look around externally. If we see someone who's outside and they don't have really nice clothes or something like that, it's like, distressing. But in India, it's like, so what? I don't have nice clothes. Who cares? The standard is like that, Even though there's obviously a standard of necessity of maintaining our natural function in the world, eating, sleeping, things like that. But I think our understanding of what's necessary for that is really kind of bloated in the West. Whereas in India, the things are, the material necessities are minimized, just almost automatically. It just happens like that. So it's a different world. Material necessities are very much secondary, especially when you're involved with temples and people who are in that kind of consciousness.
So essentially, your guru asked you to come back to the States and
and eventually after a couple of years. I was saffron clad brahmachari, which is the first stage of life, and then naturally from there you developed into married life. So I had at that time our marriages were arranged. So there was this girl in the Toronto temple, and I was in Detroit. Yeah, and I was in Detroit. So we had all met at this function in Buffalo or something, and I was set up with this girl, and I knew who she was, and I was thinking, wow, this would be great. And then and then at the last minute, it's like, oh, sorry, she's older than you. She's 8 days older than you, and so we can't have that. So somebody else is going to come there, and I'm like, who? Well, her name is Sri Lanka. And I was like, okay. And so Sri Lanka gets a bus from Toronto to Detroit, but they won't let her across through the tunnel, so she's stuck in Windsor across from Detroit. So he goes, I'm stuck in Windsor. I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm going over to get you. So I pull up in the van from the temple. I got through the tunnel or whatever. And so she was stopped at the tunnel. So I thought, okay, there's a tunnel and a bridge, so we'll go through on the bridge on the way back. Anyway, when I drove up, there's Sri Lanka standing there. She's got, overalls on and a straw hat. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, this is like a country girl. And so we drove in, and the next day we were married.
Wow.
And, it's kind of cool because, luckily, Sri Lanka was a very serious person about spiritual life, and kind of so was I. So, whatever difficulties there were in terms of, maritable things, personal things, it was always like secondary. So we just made sacrifices, and it worked out perfectly. We became very deeply in love, and we had some great kids, and, you ever meet Sudarshan?
Yeah.
He's our son.
I
you know that.
20 minutes ago, I was like mind blown.
Oh, you just found that out, huh?
No, just told me that. I was like, no. Now,
yeah, he was born in
and I
1970.
didn't even know that.
He was born in 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't talk. Sri Lanka doesn't like to talk about it, or something. She's just
I think it's so
shy
beautiful.
about that.
I think it should be shared.
This is like 1972. Sudarshan was born.
Wow.
So yeah, he was. Well, I'm getting into a whole story, but I'll tell you the story. Anyway, he was born, and he was breached. It was in the temple in Chicago. We had just gotten this former YMCA building, huge building, but it was all like there was no heat and stuff like that. And she gave birth, and he was breached. So he breathed in the amniotic fluid, and I had to bring him to the hospital. So I call a cab, and the cab comes and it says, "Bring me to Children's Hospital," because there's a children's hospital in Chicago. Bring me to Children's Hospital, and I'm like taking care of this kid, and all of a sudden he drives up to Chicago General. He passed by Children's Hospital, so I walk into Chicago General, and I've got this newborn child that has pneumonia, and I said, "Oh, my son, he was just born. He has contaminated birth, because it wasn't in a hospital." So I was like, so go sit down. You have to wait. So they have me sit down, and there's all these people, 30 people around, drunks and all this, So finally, I just came up to the person and said, "If anything happens to this child, I'm getting your name, and you're going to pay for it." So he calls up the pediatric ward right away, and the doctors come down, and they're all Indians. So I'm wearing the robes and everything, and they're all, "Oh yeah, come on up." And so they put Sudarshan into a incubator, and he was there in the incubator for 2 weeks, and they wouldn't tell us whether he would live or die. So Sri Lanka and I would go every day to see him and stuff, and chant. I would chant Gayatri, the special mantra, into the incubator, and it was like we learned that this child is Krishna's; he's not ours. Krishna can take him anytime. So it was like the introductory, understanding that Krishna gave us about what it is to be, parents to a person who's someone who's taken birth to continue his spiritual journey. So we, so we saw it like that, and raised him from his little kid. When he was really little. He saw Srila Prabhupada a few times. Srila Prabhupada rubbed his head and stuff, and that he liked Prabhupada. And there was he was in this school in Dallas. It was the Hare Krishna school, and so Prabhupada came there, and he comes to the class and he says, "Who knows one Bhagavad Gita verse?" Everybody doesn't say anything. Instruction, raise his hand. He's like 4 years old. Prabhupada says, "Very good." Somehow or other, he had learned this verse from the Gita, So he was like that from the very beginning. He was naturally interested in spiritual life. So, and we could see that, that this kid is, not just an ordinary kid. He's something else,
So there was never any rebellion from your children with.
Not much. Naturally it was there. Sudarshan was, he had an early guru who he was very dedicated to, and as soon as he got out of high school, he had a few girlfriends in high school and stuff like that, girls were after him all the time because he was, I guess he's attractive or something. And anyway, so they were after him all the time, and he was like, anyway, so he went to India right after, no, actually, it wasn't after high school, it was after college. He finished college, and then he went to India after that, and just absorbed himself in spiritual life, and came back and was with us for a while, and then for some reason or other he went to Detroit. I forget exactly why, but when he was in Detroit, he met Rai Kishori, and she snagged him. And, that was it. Siddhartha was married, and within a couple of years they had Vinodini. Have you met Vinodini? She has a little baby now.
Oh, that's
That's Vinodini, yeah. That's Siddhartha's first child.
Wow.
So she's my granddaughter, and the baby is my great-grandson. Narada Muni Das.
Wow, 4 generations, that's incredible.
Yeah. And I'm thinking maybe Krishna will let me stick around for 5. We'll see.
Wow. That's amazing.
Or maybe I'll be 5. Because sometimes I think like that. Like, well, if I'm going to take birth again, I just as soon take birth with a bunch of people I already know.
Do you think we have any choice in the matter?
I think Krishna listens to us. I mean, he has his own plan for us. I don't think it's our idea is the primary thing, but he may make the accommodation. Who knows, how that works exactly.
That is a very novel concept to me.
Krishna's very kind.
He's just like, well, all right, I'll change my divine plan.
Yeah, that's called love, right? Yeah. I mean, we change things for others because we love them. I mean, basically, that's the standard. That's the energy that moves things, right? It really is. And obviously, there's so many different degrees, but nonetheless, that's like the principle. All you need is love.
That's very, very fascinating.
And that was like, yeah. And I was just like 19 then when I heard that. Oh, wow, okay.
May I ask, this is very much off topic, but once you found... Once you found Vaishnavism, how did you support your family and yourself in terms of work?
Yeah. Well, for the first about 10 years, I was just in temples, and like in Chicago Temple, where I was the temple president, it was an old YMCA, so there was an upstairs wing that was a former hotel. So there's all these rooms, and each family had their own little room. So we had our own little room, and we just had the temple's food, and there was no, if needs came up for stuff like Shalika needed some diapers or something like that, we just take it out of the temple budget and stuff like that. Later, after the 10 years that we were in temples, we got a 320 acre in the mountains in California with a bunch of other devotees. And it's a place called Badger, California. It's still there. There's still devotees there. And we bought a trailer and set up. I built an addition onto the trailer, and we lived there. And when I was in L.A., my service was a life membership director, so I worked with the local Indians to become close to Krishna Consciousness. So they were all working in jobs and thought, okay, so if I want to be example, I have to work in a job also. So I opened a travel agency and, started a travel agency there and got trained in that and set it all up and stuff like that. So I had experience in travel agency work. So, when we moved up into the mountains, somehow I ran into a lady who ran a travel agency in Visalia, which is below where we lived, and she hired me as a manager. Just like Krishna just somehow or other arranged things. And I got enough money to, pay the mortgage on the farm and stuff like that, and enough to maintain the family. And it's just kind of been like that the whole life, where, we always just had just enough. We never had a lot. but whatever we needed, Krishna like arranged it. We moved to London after I went back to school in 1990, and was back to school for 7 years. And then after that, I asked Srila Govinda Maharaj, Srila Govinda Maharaj the first there, what I should do. And she said, well, we need help in our temple in London. So I was at UC Santa Barbara, so we just like packed everything up and into these big flower boxes and shipped it to London and flew over to London. And what was I saying?
You were saying you moved to London, and the initial question was, how did you afford it for your family?
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. So I moved to London, and so we were living in the temple, and then, it got crowded in the temple, so I moved outside, and I think before we moved to London, I had saved like, I don't know, $10,000 or something. I had this, and when I lived in Santa Barbara, I had a friend who set me up with this T-shirt business. So I would go up to this beach just north of Santa Barbara. I forget the name of it. And I set up a stand and just sold T-shirts, and with different sayings on them and stuff like that. We had maybe 10 or 15 different T-shirt things. And I sold them for $5 a piece, bought them for $2, and because they were like slightly used T-shirts. We didn't buy new ones. We bought ones that weren't in good condition, so we could sell them really cheap. Anyway, I made money in that way, and then went to London with that money, and then eventually, when I was in London, we started to run out of money, so I went to this local market in Camden, which is a place where they have all these markets in London, and I started to sell stuff from India, which I bought locally, and eventually I got set up. I had my own permanent stall there, and went to India and bought stuff directly, so I was able to make money there, and ran that for like 14 years or something, and then eventually, in 2006, I went to India, and no plan, just I was going to see my guru, Srila Govinda Maharaj, and I went and bowed down to him when I first saw him in India, and I looked up, and he said to me, I may not be here next year. And I was like, oh my, what am I supposed to do? And I thought, okay, I have to be his disciple. And I was already initiated by other gurus, but the only position that I could take as his disciple was as a sannyasi, which means you renounce your married life, and so so I called up Shileka and asked her permission, because I had that permission of my wife and my girls. I had to give permission. That's specifically the thing in our system. You got to get not from necessarily your son, but from your wife and the two girls. So I got their permission. Then I also called Sudarshan and like got his permission, and I took sannyas from Srila Govinda Maharaj in 2006. And in that way, because we were living together in London, and I came back to London as a sannyasi, and she just stayed in the ladies' ashram in London for a couple of years, and then eventually she came over here. And then after some time, I also was thinking about just coming back to America, and I came back in like 2014, something like that. But we lived separate from that point, So we're still separate, but we're still, obviously we still love each other, and we're still really good friends. But it's just a different like stage of life. That's all. I mean, it's like, okay, I'm going to die sometime. She's going to die sometime. So, the separation is inevitable. So if we do it in a way that benefits both of our spiritual life in the interim, what's the loss? It's going to happen anyway. So this way, we're together. We're still friends, but we're like preparing for that ultimate time, something like that. Yeah. Right? Is that understandable? Yeah.
I think it's very healthy, very admirable.
Yeah. So we're getting into really personal thing here.
But thank you for sharing. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Kind of. Okay.
It was very interesting though.
Yeah?
To hear the story.
Yeah.
Sudash, you.
Yeah. And then 76, Kishori, who's my oldest daughter, who lives in North Dakota now. She met her husband she was working in Yellowstone as a nurse. She's a nurse. She's an RN. So she was working in Yellowstone as a nurse, and he was a ranger in Yellowstone. And they met, and they got married. And she had already been married once, but they had separated. But anyway, then he got transferred to this federal lake in North Dakota, so they all moved up there. So she's there now. And my youngest daughter, Jaishri, maybe you've met her.
Yeah.
She has red hair.
With the
He's the mother of the Italian.
Yeah.
She's Italian, yeah. I mean, her husband's Italian, but she speaks Italian fluently. So do her kids. She was in Italy for a year.
Yeah, I spoke with them.
And the kids went to school in Italy in Italian. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, they're awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like one of the best things I could think for somebody who's like my grandchildren.
Yeah.
Like, they know Italy. They've got, Italian grandparents. They speak Italian. They feel Italian, but they're Americans too,
Yeah.
So it's really, really, really a nice thing. And, Jaishri is she fell in love with Sham Sundar, and they got married and stuff. And it was just, I remember we were living in, where was it? Oh yeah, it was in London. We were living in London in our house, and Sham Sundar comes by and says, can I camp out in your backyard? He was like Italian, and he came to the temple in London because there was a festival or something. And I said, okay. So he's camping out in the backyard, and I'm thinking, what's up with this? Why didn't he stay in the temple? And eventually, he and Jaishri start hanging out, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? And before I knew it, they're like going off to Spain to travel around Spain together. And I thought, okay, that's it. And it was, yeah. So they got married shortly after that, and then, and she stayed in Italy for a couple of years, but she decided that it would be better for her and the kids to live in America. But every summer they go to Italy and stay the whole summer with the relatives there. So they're both Italian and American, but she'd rather her kids grew up here, I guess, because she experienced both places and made her decision. Of course, she was raised in America, but she's pretty international type person. So, but I think she just overall thought it'd be easier for her kids to be here. So anyway, she made that decision.
In that same vein, I'm curious about how one can navigate relationships within Vaishnavism, especially if you're not a devotee, and what that looks like.
Yeah, well, that's a real question, because in the early days, in the time of Srila Prabhupada, it was very easy. You just okay, you guys like each other, get married. Just because it's like a service, and if you're kind of compatible, then just go for your service, But developing relationally, it can get complicated, right? It can be more difficult, and so my tendency is always just go for it. Get married, and just do your life. Because the more important thing, the most important thing is not necessarily that. It's important in life, no doubt, but the most important thing is spiritual life. So if you have someone you're compatible with in spiritual life and you can grow together, then just go for it. That's my thinking. But it's more it's more complicated, unfortunately. Our society is not like it was in the time of Prabhupada, where it's oh, you like each other? Okay, that's it. Done. It was just, it was just simpler. But whereas the stream of like consciousness about that we all grow up in is it's just different than what the ideal of Krishna consciousness is. So it's a little, it's still a little difficult to navigate that, in Krishna consciousness. And I have a couple disciples. One of my disciples is young, and I just keep telling him, just find someone, get married. But he's like, I don't know. I mean.
But in terms of like navigating a relationship before marriage, what are the rules?
Well, I mean, in Krishna consciousness, the idea is that, the most important thing is spiritual life. And, secondarily is our, material situation and our material relations. So, for people who are, developing Krishna consciousness, to follow the natural flow of things based on, how we've grown up is okay. But to accommodate Krishna consciousness with that, alongside with that, is a better thing, I think. Rather than thinking, I should follow the regulations as if I was living in a temple. Rather than that, just live more just normally, and develop a life in such a way so that it becomes Krishna conscious. And that's the real standard. I mean, we're in the material world. It's a temporary place. We're attached to different temporary things. That's not the big deal. We all have our problems with attachments. But the big deal is, can I put my heart in the right direction, towards a spiritual life? Can I put my heart in that direction? And then, the momentum of that direction will correct problems, secondary problems on the, material relational level. Go for the spiritual level and understand that by doing that, the material problems will be solved. Otherwise, trying to figure out the material problems is just like the same old thing, right? You have to just try to guide yourself with a spiritual direction and do things based on, how things would just normally develop, and then just grow in that way. Because it doesn't really, the external things about rules and regulations and all, these are all really secondary things. The main thing is the development of the heart. And from development of the heart, then when the heart, develops, then naturally you think, I'm going to live in this way because my heart feels like that. It's not as though, I want to be in the heart way, and I want to be, so I'll try to follow and live my life before my heart develops in a natural way. I'm going to live it. It's not necessary. You know what I mean? It's not necessary to think like that. You just grow naturally, because Krishna's God. He's going to help. He doesn't, he doesn't care about our attachments and all these things, as far as I understand. I mean, everybody's attached. We're stuck in the material world. This is how we've lived. Krishna doesn't care about those things. He wants us to love him. He's not a rules and regulations person or something. He loves people. He loves us. He's the supreme lover.
He's a rule breaker too, right?
Yeah, exactly. He does what he wants to do, Krishna breaks Krishna's rules. But really, he doesn't even bother with rules. He has Brahma in the universe set up rules and stuff like that. He's he's just interested in it's just a natural thing. God, if there's a God, if there's a supreme, he's gonna be the perfect lover. He's gonna be the perfect friend. He's gonna be the perfect playmate. Just depending on where you're at in terms of your own internal heart and spiritual development. for me, I always think, I can, imagine like, playing with Krishna in a river or digging in the sand next to the river or something. Yeah, I mean, something like that. And that's the natural spiritual position. It's not just some like a guy with an old body thinking about, some illusory younger thing, but it's really the spiritual nature. It's like who we are. So we can be old, we can have old bodies and all these things, and we don't have to be old. We're like, we're spiritual beings. We can feel just as young as ever, even though, limited by the deterioration of the material body, but at the same time, not so much affected in consciousness. It's just a matter of, it's all consciousness, And, the more we, the more we put ourselves in the direction of consciousness and spiritual life, the more our life can become like that. It's just, you taste it a little bit and this kind of works. So you just go a little, you take another step and you take another step and you take another step. It's just a constant, like you take a step more or less in darkness. You're not sure what's going to be there, but you're pretty sure it's going to be solid because your guru tells you it's going to be solid. So you just go for it.
So can you only have a guru if you're a devotee?
Only have a guru if you're a devotee?
If you're initiated, you get a guru? Or how does it...
the guru initiates you. You ask the guru for initiation.
So essentially, you cannot be...
Okay, I feel like I need a connection. And so, you look around and you make a decision. Like with me, it was easy. There was only Prabhupada. And now there's a few gurus in our mission. Janardhan Maharaj in Sokel, Madhusudan Maharaj, who's mostly in Italy. I have 3 disciples, but generally, if people generally want a general initiation, I'll refer them probably to Janardhan Maharaj and Madhusudan Maharaj. If they want initiation from me, I'll do that. But I'm not looking like I've got 3 disciples. I'm not looking to top 10. If people are generally interested in Krishna consciousness and they don't feel some connection with me, then I'll refer them to, people who I think are, more spiritually developed than me. I don't know if that's...
If you take initiation... If one takes initiation, what does that look like? What does it require?
Initiation establishes a connection with our line of gurus. There's a whole line of gurus, and the teaching comes down through that line, and the conveyance, the form of initiation is a form that is given by Krishna and our gurus through which transcendental knowledge is conveyed. You receive transcendental knowledge just naturally in your heart, but the heart can receive, there's a limitation in the heart's reception, just based on our own limitations and our own consciousnness. But by coming into the shelter of our line of gurus, that limitation is, what's the word? It's like... it's minimized, it's corrected to some extent, based on the potency of the predecessor acharyas or teachers. You come in connection with that, and your heart gets a special link that develops in a more powerful way. It just somehow or other it works like that. If a person is really sincere in spiritual life, we're told they'll be directed in such a way so that they'll find a guru. Wherever they are in the world, it will just, they'll find the guru. The guru will come. So, there's teachers in Krishna consciousness all over the world, and people in different degrees of progress in different positions in life. they like go to different places and they seek in different directions. But the main thing that our gurus have told us is just follow your inner guide. Your inner guide that brought you this far will bring you in the right place. Just have that kind of faith. The inner guide will always take care of you. You know, so just follow like that. Like, what a relief. What's going on? Is it time? The offering is on?
It's done.
Oh, it's done. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I guess we'll chant. Okay, so we'll just end up, and then we'll have our evening prasadam, our evening vegetarian stuff. Wonderful things.
Love that.
Okay.
This class was very intimate, very personal.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's a whole reciprocal thing. Some people, some classes will just be really hard for me to say anything. Other classes, it'll just be really easy. It just depends on the people, the circumstance. You want to chant, Bruce? Hari Haraya?
Right.
Yeah. What page is it? I forget.
What's it? 66.
Oh, can you do a 1, 2, 3? Is that okay? Can you play the 3 beat?
Yeah, traditional.
Yeah.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Namaha.
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 Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaja ki Sripad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Varya Asatara Sata Srimad Srila Bhakti Rakha Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaja ki Sripad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Varya Asatara Sata Srimad Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Sripad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Varya Asatara Sata Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Rupananda Guru Varga ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Samaveta Vaishnava Mandala ki jai. Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hari Nam Sankirtan ki jai. Jai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Go.
Jai. Bhima Krishna Prabhu says, happy to hear this beautiful pastime.
Who is that?
Bhima Krishna Prabhu says, Bhagavad Gita Nyasi Maharaja.
What's your name again? Abigail.
Krishna Prabhu.